guys, and welcome back to the StudyTube project. Today you have me, it is Jade, hello. I've been really thinking the last few days about what I wanted to make this video on because I'd quite like it to be relevant to the Black Lives Matter movement. At the same time, I'm still so in the process of learning how to be a better ally and constantly trying to educate myself. But yeah, I'm hoping that at this time a lot of non-black people are having more conversations about race, and maybe you have been having conversations with black people in your life about the topic of racism. In today's video, I just want to unpack some of the terms that you might have heard, like tone policing and white fragility, the kind of vocabulary that's used by a lot of black activists in discussing how white people should show up in conversations about race. So yes, if you're also thinking about how to become a better ally, I thought I could unpack some of these terms to my best knowledge. But yeah, I hope this can just help you understand how to navigate it better. Okay, so the first thing I want to bring up is called tone policing. This is where you're in conversation with a person of colour and you start saying things like, oh, can you not shout? Or can you try and rephrase that in a more positive way? Like, oh, can you stop attacking me? Like, can you say that in a nicer manner? And at the end of the day, it's not up to you to define how someone should feel and how people should or shouldn't express their anger, especially if it's topics which are so emotionally charged. And I really wanted to read a quote from Layla Saad's workbook, Me and White Supremacy, because I think it's really useful in this context. So she says, when you control the tone of how BIPOC are supposed to talk about their lived experiences with racism and existing in the world, you are reinforcing the white supremacist ideology that white knows best. It is also an insidious way of gaslighting BIPOC. When you insist that black people talk about their painful experiences with racism without expressing any pain, rage or grief, you are asking them to dehumanize themselves. So yeah, if you are a non-black person trying to talk about race with a black person, try not to correct someone on how they should feel or how they should be telling you the information. You should just be grateful that they're willing to have the conversation with you anyway. Even if it feels intense or a lot for you to process because you haven't had to consider your own white privilege before, it's not up to you to tell someone how to express themselves. Something I want to highlight here is she brings up gaslighting. Maybe you've heard this before, maybe you haven't, but it's basically where you kind of discredit someone's feelings by playing off what you said, something problematic that you've done, as a joke, or saying that that person is being too sensitive in their response. For example, a white person makes a racist joke, a black person calls them out on it, and then the white person is like, oh, but it was just a joke, like, toughen up, you're too sensitive. And it's statements like that that are really problematic because it forces the other person to think, like, is this just my issue? Like, was that actually problematic? Is it just me that thinks that? So yeah, if someone calls you out, just try and listen openly, honestly, see why it offended someone instead of instantly rushing to defend yourself. Okay, and kind of on that note, I don't know if you've heard of white fragility. This is something that's discussed a lot by black activists and in a lot of books that I've read. It's basically rooted in a defensiveness. I just want to say I am so guilty of this. I was doing Layla's workbook and I realized, as I kind of mentioned in my other video, that you know, like, I don't want to be called out as being racist. I would so much rather defend what my intentions were than actually listen to how the outcome of what I did might have been problematic. White fragility looks like you shutting down when conversations get uncomfortable, not really listening and just trying to defend your point of view and what your intentions were. It looks like blocking people who have constructive opinions that you just don't want to listen to. It looks like fight or flight. It looks like crying in racial interactions. The main thing about white fragility is turning yourself into a victim when the issue isn't about you. At the end of the day, you're profiting off of the system that you're trying to discuss, but it can be quite hard to come to terms with that, which makes you more fragile in those conversations. At the end of the day, discussing these things is going to be super hard if you've never done it before. You will want to defend yourself. I still always have this urge to be like, but my intentions were good, which they were, but I think we all need to start recognizing that just because we have good intentions doesn't mean that the way we're trying to act is actually the way we should be acting. For example, the first post that I did to do with George Floyd was, I didn't even realize that it could be problematic. I basically posted resources and information alongside a photo of myself which I automatically wanted to defend the intentions for. You know, I'm like, oh, it's just like a normal photo on my feed, which hopefully people will engage with it more and then read the resources and be more likely to act. But people had really valid arguments that it was kind of white centering, like me talking about an issue but putting myself as the face of the issue. At the end of the day, we will make mistakes, it's just the way it is. It shouldn't stop you acting, but the way that you react to people calling you out or making suggestions is probably the most important part. You might harbour some of that white fragility and that's okay, but just now being aware of it, just like listen, absorb, process, and then act. Try not to just defend. Yeah, that was just a very short intro to some of the resources that I've been reading over the years. At the end of the day, as I say, I am no expert. I literally made that mistake like a week ago. Being an ally doesn't mean not getting anything wrong. It means you're just constantly trying to learn and trying to do the work. So yeah, just please keep doing that work. I'm gonna put a load of resources in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing rest of the day. Bye.